Welcome back, Mando.
Greetings, Bucketheads. Mavar Tagar. Welcome to our 375th Boba Fett Don't Drink Boba Tea episode of MandoVision. And I'm your host, Nargai Tom. Thank you so much for checking out this small independent Star Wars podcast. We're so glad you're here. Reach out to us on those socials at Mando_Vision on X and Insta, MandoVision at Blue Sky, and of course you can email me, MandoVisionTom@gmail.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. Bucketheads, we are back. We continue the countdown to the premiere of The Mandalorian and Grogu. As you may know, there's some initial reactions out there from people in the press. And, I mean, I've mostly seen positives. I don't know what that means. Take it with a grain of salt. I've seen a few negatives as well. But, hey, you know, Star Wars is returning to the theaters, and it's going to be, Star Wars is always going to be, I don't want to say Star Wars is divisive, but everyone has an opinion on what Star Wars is and isn't to them. And that's always going to make it hard to sort of gauge critical reaction to things. So I would encourage, if you do read these sort of things, take them all with a grain of salt and go into the movie and with the plan to make up your own mind, and don't be influenced by influencers. We in today's day and age, my friends, of influencers and FOMO, it's more important than ever to have our own thoughts. Don't let somebody persuade you and influence you in the way you think. Just kind of on that note, the plan for this week. I will be seeing The Mandalorian and Grogu in theaters on Thursday, and the intention will be to return from the cinemas and put out a spoiler-free review of the movie for you guys on Thursday evening. More likely you guys won't hear it till Friday, but it'll be spoiler-free so that we can just kind of have a very general, I can give you like my very general impression of the film. I would like to get into a more spoilerific podcast the following week. That way everybody gets a chance to go see the film and again can make their opinions before we have a big discussion that's just laced full of spoilers and all that good stuff. Because we're going to want to get deep into the movie as soon as we can. So yes, this week will be spoiler free. Next week we'll get into it. More details on the plot points and various things that take place over the course of the film. All right, today for you, we are continuing our sort of revisiting of everything Mandalorian, and that includes rewatching the Book of Boba Fett. Yes, a controversial. Maybe I'll just go with divisive. It was a show that when it came out, it did not endear itself to a lot of people on its first viewing. I had seen some stuff maybe 6-7 months ago that seemed to indicate that the show is actually currently thriving on Disney Plus. Like maybe people who had not been aware of it or had slept on it seem to be going to it and finding it now later on down the road, which is always the interesting thing about streaming, because again, we live in a culture that is very now, and it feels like it's easy to get forgotten very, very quickly if you aren't the flavor of the week. And while I think that does hold true for a lot of things, we also have to remember the sheer volume of content that comes out on every platform all the time now. So it's easy for things to, as we say on the show, get lost in the shuffle. So maybe people just didn't get to it at the time and they found it later on. I have this very same problem for myself, because again, there's so much content out there that I am interested in, but there's not enough hours in the day to just sit there and watch endless amounts of television. And usually the programming is quality. It's of high quality and it is worth watching. But yeah, I'm assuming you don't have the time to sit there and just watch hours and hours and hours of various things. So yeah, I kind of got to schedule these things out. So doing this rewatch of The Mandalorian, I'm not watching anything else right now. I'm very much dialed into this and not paying attention to anything that's actually happening currently on the streamers. So again, maybe that's just a little bit of my own take on the current streaming situation. But hey, a lot of content, not enough hours in the day. And you get to it when you get to it. All right, let's go ahead. We're going to talk about the Book of Boba Fett. But you know what that means? We got to do something first. It's time. Strap on your buckets. Let's go.
Get out of here. We'll hold them off.
You're going to have to relocate the covert.
This is the way.
This is the way.
All right, Bucketheads. As you may recall from our initial watch of the show, I am a big-time Boba Fett fan. One of my favorite characters from the original trilogy, even though he has like 3 minutes of screen time. A character that I was instantly drawn to. The T-visor, the armor, the jetpack, the weaponry, the bounty hunting aspect of it all. Slave One, no longer Slave One in the Disney world, but hey, we still remember. And he's a character that I think worked best when he was still mysterious. Obviously, we got to know him very, very well through the prequels, learning that he was a clone. The Jango Fett is sort of the progenitor of the entire clone army. And they would go on in Legends to tell some very, very, very good stories about Boba Fett, his relationship to Mandalore, his complicated relationship with the clone army, and his complicated relationship with his own children or child, and the people in his life, excuse me. And I always really enjoyed those aspects of the character. The stuff they did in Legends, I thought was fantastic. I really was here for it. You know, they painted him as a man with a code, but his code didn't always make him the good guy. And that led to him having a complicated personal life. And I dug it. I was here for it. So of course, when the new Disney canon came in and wiped all that away, Boba Fett was one of the characters I waited to see what they would do with next. And of course, his reintroduction via The Mandalorian was fantastic. I just spoke yesterday about how much I really enjoyed the way he was reintroduced, the sort of brutal nature of the character that came into play, and the questions that were raised by his initial appearances too, right? Like he's in the robes and he's got a gaffy stick, and you're like, what's going on here? Like, what's the situation? Obviously, he was left in the sands of Tatooine, but what's going on? And so the Book of Boba Fett came about to tell a story of Boba in the current timeline, post Return of the Jedi, and what his future would be, what role he would take in this new galaxy without the Empire around. And then via flashbacks, we would find out what happened after the destruction of the sail barge in Return of the Jedi, his escape from the Sarlacc pit, his time amongst the Tuskens. And as I talked about yesterday, one of my favorite aspects of The Mandalorian has been their treatment of the Tusken Raiders, treating them as the indigenous people of Tatooine, and giving them a lot more respect than we had previously seen in live action. So we really hone in on that in these first couple of episodes 1 and 2 in particular. We spend a lot of time with Boba amongst the Tuskens. And I'll be honest, it's probably my favorite part of the show. I think it's so good. I think it's so outstanding that it makes me not really care all that much about what he's trying to do in Mos Espa, right? Taking over Jabba's Gatra and all these big crime words that they introduce us to, Gatra and Syndicate and Diamo, whatever the Japanese word for gangsters, crime boss, whatever, however you want to do it. I always thought of the things in the Book of Boba Fett's story, the decision of Boba Fett to sort of become like the benevolent crime lord was the one that didn't really sing to me. And I wasn't sure if that was just me butting up against what I liked about the character from the Legends stories. Because like Cad Bane says, in the final episode of the season or series at this point, what's your angle, Boba? Like, I don't get it. Your business model makes no sense to me. I don't understand how you're the kind crime boss. I don't know where you make money from if you're not helping sell spice. You're getting paid in fruit at the end of the show. What is your revenue stream? You're offering protection. I assume you're going to make them pay for it. These are the questions and the nits that I pick with this show. But having said that, I did enjoy this rewatch. I did enjoy revisiting this series. I think when it came out, I was harsh on it. I do think my perception and my expectations probably came into play. I tried to be level-headed and balanced with it. But again, certain things of it just bumped up against me. I very much enjoyed rewatching this. Again, those first 2 episodes, I could watch an entire show of Boba amongst the Tuskens. I found all of that fascinating. I was here for it. I wanted more. Again, but the current day stuff, him, going up against the Pikes, trying to make himself like the kind crime lord of Mos Espa. Sure, yeah, okay, yeah. I'm gonna roll with it. I'm fine with it. There are elements to it with which were fun, but again, it's Star Wars by Johnny Favs, which means a lot of the familiar is coming back. We're gonna get a lot of familiarity. Like Boba Fett is gonna get a Rancor. He's living in Jabba's palace. Can't be in Jabba's palace without a Rancor, so you get a Rancor. We bring in some Hutts. We introduce the twins who are going to be in the film. And again, I do sort of like the struggle for taking over Jabba's territories, Jabba's kind of criminal empire. I do sort of like that aspect of it, but it seems so narrow. It seemed like Boba's perspective on this was just so narrow. He was just really focused on Mos Espa and less of Jabba's sort of criminal enterprises. Again, he's going up against the Pikes. He's going up against the Trenditions of the region, and several others. And yeah, sure. I mean, I get it. It's like a PG version of a mob movie, but it's like a not very good mob movie in many senses. That's not to say that the action isn't good and that you don't sort of just go along for the ride. Because if you go along for the ride, you're going to have a good time. It is fun in that regards. Again, I just don't want to think too deeply on exactly how Boba Fett was going to run this criminal empire of honor and respect and niceness. And maybe that's why there isn't a season 2, because they don't really have an answer for it either. I'm not sure. But one of the reasons why watching the Book of Boba Fett was so integral to our Mandalorian rewatch is because very abruptly, after the 4th episode of the show, it switches gears into becoming a Mandalorian season 2.5. And I am not the person who came up with that. That's been on the internet since the show came out. And is very abrupt. I'll be honest with you. I know even knowing the episodes were coming, I was just like, oh wow, we're just really pumping the brakes on Boba's story hardcore to now focus on Din Djarin and his life without Grogu, which is fine, which is good. I'm okay with it. We're covering an important part of their life because, again, the Mandalorian is about the Mandalorian and Grogu, basically, right? So at the end of season 2 of the Mandalorian, Grogu goes off with Luke Skywalker. We think he's going to be trained with a Jedi, and we're left wondering what the heck's going to happen next. Well, these episodes kind of fill in those blanks because we find out that the Mandalorian is not doing so great. He's kind of lonely, misses the kid, but he's also now the bearer of the Darksaber, and he's trying to figure out what that means for him moving forward. So he realigns with his covert, gets some very general Darksaber training. It's not going well for him. And then he also reveals that he had to remove his helmet at the climax of season 2. So he is, in the eyes of the Children of the Watch, no longer a Mandalorian. He is an apostate, and he's out. Great fight with a member of Clan Vizsla for the Darksaber. Great stuff with the Armorer. But yeah, we now find out that the Mandalorian's on the outs. So we are getting sort of the nuggets of what Season 3 is going to be about, because he asks the Armorer what does he have to do to atone. And it's to bathe in the waters beneath the mines of Mandalore, which we get into in Season 3. So we're sort of setting the tone for his atonement. But we also have to get some other issues resolved. He doesn't have a ship. He's just flying around. He's taking public transport. He's taking space buses. We got to solve that. So he gets a message from Pelimoto back in Mos Eisley that she might have a lead on a ship for him. He thinks it's going to be a Razor Crest. We find out it's going to be an N1 Naboo starfighter like the ones we saw in The Phantom Menace. And we basically get an episode of them building a ship. That's it. It's all very interesting. It's a complete narrative break from what we're doing with Boba Fett to focus now on the Mandalorian getting a new ship and hanging out with Peli. And that's cool, because guess who else is hanging out with Peli? BD-1, or at least a BD unit. And it's cool. I love the BDs. They're probably one of my favorite droids that have been introduced in like the last 10 years. Big fan of BDs, and I loved seeing the BDs in the show. This BD unit in the show. If it is BD-1, that's killer. That's so killer. And then in the next episode, we're going to go, after he gets his ship, he wants to go see the kid. He's got a little piece of Beskar chainmail kind of stuff for Grogu. Now, the Armorer made this for him before the revelation that he had removed his helmet. So, he had this gift ready to go. And he wants to go see the kid. Obviously, that's not how the Jedi roll. And this is where, we reconnect with Ahsoka. And Ahsoka's still not being super helpful. I mean, let's be honest about it. Like, Ahsoka's on this planet where Luke Skywalker is building a new temple for a new Jedi Order. And again, I would love to have Ahsoka give Luke some sort of counsel on like where the Jedi Order went wrong in her time. The fact that she just seems to be standing there letting all these things happen and getting ready to watch him repeat the same mistakes is very frustrating to me. We've talked a little bit about Luke Skywalker in the sequel trilogy and why that version of Luke doesn't necessarily work for me. And again, having access to a living, breathing Jedi like Ahsoka Tano should theoretically provide him with a sounding board so that he won't fall into the same mistakes as the previous order. But that is what the sequel trilogy is all about. Luke repeating the mistakes of the past. And that makes me sad. Eventually, we get some stuff with Luke training Grogu and exploring the Force, and like they're really fun sequences. They're really good. They're really interesting, and we're seeing Grogu differently than we were before because of his exposure now with Luke and sort of tapping into more of his latent Jedi abilities. However, narratively speaking, I think for this show, like it's such a tonal shift that I feel like it's almost a distraction. If you were somewhat invested in Boba Fett's story at all, you're just like, what's going on now? Like, why are we not on Tatooine following Boba Fett? Why are we hanging out with the Mandalorian? It was abrupt, and I'll be honest, I found it a little jarring on a rewatch. Now, it was because I was watching a block of episodes. I was watching like 4 episodes in a row because I had to get to a certain point to make sure I could watch the last episode to do this podcast in time. I just found it slow. It slows the story down quite a bit, and I found that to be a tad frustrating. Granted, these are important moments. These are big things for our characters as we get ready for Season 3 of The Mandalorian. But yes, eventually Grogu and Mando reunite. It's during the climax, the Battle of Mos Espa, in the season/series finale. And it's important. I mean, again, it's good. Their reunion is what we needed because it resets the stage for Season 3 of Mando. So this sort of like detour in the Book of Boba Fett is perfectly fine. It gets our characters reunited, and it shows that Grogu has made a decision to be a foundling, to follow the path of the Mandalore. And that sets the stage for what's next. Now, back in the Book of Boba Fett, Din Djarin is needed by Boba Fett because Boba's, made enemies with all the syndicates. The Pikes are coming for him. There's going to be a big battle. It's all exciting. We called together a lot of our familiar faces from Tatooine that we've met over the course of The Mandalorian. Cobb Vanth, the people of now Freetown, formerly Mos Pelgo. We are introduced to these teenagers who are into like modifications, body modification, which is how we find out that. Oh my gosh, why am I blanking on her name? This is how Boba Fett saved what's her name out in the desert from the Gunslinger episode. Oh my gosh, Fennec Shan. Thank you, good lord, my brain finally kicked into gear. So yeah, this is again, we found some backstory. We get these mod characters. Apparently, in the Easter egg at the end of the season, this is how Cobb Vanth is going to be alive. He's going to have some kind of body modification as well. I'll be honest, I'm not crazy about the body mod stuff. Not for me. Not a fan. Not sure if I like the idea of getting rid of my arm for a cybernetic. I mean, I guess if there's a medical reason, sure, but not for funsies. I wouldn't want to do it for funsies. So that episode sort of is weird for me. But again, it provides us with a vital piece of information for how Fennec's around and why she works with Boba Fett. And again, I know we're revisiting the show for the sake of The Mandalorian, but there is some cool stuff in here. Breaking into Jabba's palace, getting back his fire spray, going after the Sarlacc, and mowing down the Nikto speeder gang. There's some fun stuff in the show. I think the show is criticized harshly, and it doesn't necessarily deserve it. If like I said, if you're willing to sit down and go for the ride, you'll have a good time. It's 7 episodes. They're a little long, but like I said, those first 2 with the Tuskens are great. And then you get the 2 with the Mando and Grogu. And then you get into your big season finale battle with the Mandalorian and Grogu and Black Chrysanthemum. Cad Bane is there. Again, if you haven't watched this series since it came out, I think it is worth your time to check it out again. Because I think it's better than maybe you remember it. So I do encourage you to check this one out. I think, I think it's been maligned unfairly. It's a fun Star Wars adventure. It's a nice little romp. Again, I don't understand Boba's game. I don't understand his angle, as Cad Bane asks. But it is what it is. And do we do anything with it going forward? No idea. Tamara Morrison's come out multiple times and spoken about his frustration with the lack of things moving forward with another season, or even just bringing the character along in a different fashion, doing something with him. And again, I think part of that stems from what seems to be Disney's new business model of, hey man, Star Wars isn't making us a ton of money on Disney Plus. We need to start putting this stuff back in the theaters, and that's going to be our move. Because again, there's been no talk of season 4 of The Mandalorian coming to Disney Plus anytime soon. There's been very, very little on the Disney Plus Star Wars new live action show front. Of course, animation's coming out. That's great. But everything that was, I think, talked about at one point of being a Disney Plus show has either not been talked about in a long, long time, or has been transitioned into a film, or at least plans for a film. But we'll have to wait and see. So yeah, again, in short, revisit this show. I think it's a lot of fun. Do I agree with the direction that Boba Fett takes? No, of course I don't. But check it out anyways. It's still a good show, and you're going to get those 2 episodes of The Mandalorian, season 2.5. We're building an N1 with Pelly, and then we're hanging out and training Grogu with Luke Skywalker. And Ahsoka not telling him, like, hey, man, maybe don't do the same things all over again. But that's a different podcast. Check it out. I suppose in the grand scheme of things, bucket-wise, the entire series gets about 7.5 buckets from me. It's close to 8, though. I almost want to push it over because the stuff with the Tuskens is so good. And I like the Pikes. I think the Pikes are great villains. And again, live-action introduction of Cad Bane. Watch this show. Revisit it. I think it's worth your time. And with that being said, let's get out of here. Let's close it down because I got to go watch season 3 of The Mandalorian and talk to you guys about it before the movie comes out. So, another reminder to go out there and be great Star Wars fans, kind, supportive, respectful, understanding, tolerant, patient, and awesome. We are the MandoVision podcast. I am your host, Nargai Tom, and I thank you for supporting the show. Check me out on the socials at Mando_Vision on X and Insta. MandoVision at Blue Sky, and of course you can email me, mandovisiontom@gmail.com. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share this show with all the Mandalorians in your covert. And if you can, sweet 5-star reviews. All right, Bucketheads. Thanks for being great supporters. You are the best, and we'll talk very, very soon. But remember, in the meantime, this podcast can only end one way. This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the way.
I suppose you'll be heading out.
I'm not.
You should.
It's against the creed. I gave you my word. I'm with you until we both fall.
You really buy into that bantha fodder?
I do.